March 28, 1929, 1800 West Madison Street. 15,000 people are packed into the brand-new Chicago Stadium, the largest indoor arena in the world, to watch Tommy Loughran defend his light heavyweight title against Mickey Walker. It is opening night, and up on the roof, where nobody in the crowd can see it, a barrel of tar left over from construction has caught fire. Interns across the street at County Hospital spot the flames first. The fire department slips in and puts the barrel out before it spreads. Loughran keeps his title on a decision. 15,000 people go home happy. Not one of them learns until the next morning's papers that the building nearly burned down around them on its very first night. That was opening night at the arena Patty Harmon spent his entire fortune to build. 15 months later, he would be dead, and he would never see what it became. In 1926, Patty Harmon, the son of County Kerry immigrants and a dance hall promoter from Division and Halstead, had tried to buy a National Hockey League franchise for Chicago. He lost the bid to a coffee millionaire named Frederick McLaughlin, who got the team that would become the Blackhawks. So Harmon decided that if he could not own the team, he would own the building they had to rent. It took him 3 years to line up the money, and the project nearly collapsed half a dozen times. 20 times I thought it was dead, he told a reporter later. The total construction cost landed somewhere between $5 million and $9.5 million, depending on whose books you believe. Harmon put $2.5 million of his own money into it. When it opened, the Chicago Stadium was the largest indoor arena on Earth, 26,000 seats for boxing. It was designed by an architect named Eric Hall on a single stated principle. The man who paid the lowest admission price had as much right to see the show as the man at ringside. Every seat was a good seat. Inside, Harmon installed a pipe organ. Not just any pipe organ. The Bartola Musical Instrument Company built him the largest theater organ it ever made. 3,663 pipes, 6 manuals, and a console that weighed 6 tons. It took 3 freight trains, each 8 cars long, to haul the thing from the factory to the building. It was generally considered the largest unit organ in the world. When the longtime stadium organist Al Melgard opened it all the way up, the building physically vibrated. At the organ's dedication concert, the French virtuoso Marcel Dupré sat down to play it, and the story goes that the music critics walked out because the instrument was simply too loud to sit through. Within a year of opening, Patty Harmon was out. The shareholders had pushed him aside, and the Depression had wiped out his backing. The Irish kid from Division and Halstead was no longer welcome inside the building he had built. On July 22, 1930, he died in a car crash in Des Plaines. He was 54 years old. That should have been the end of the story. It was not. The stadium was bought out of receivership in 1935 by James Norris Sr., a Detroit grain millionaire who already owned the Detroit Red Wings. His son James D. Norris and a Chicago partner named Arthur Wirtz inherited the building together. By the 1960s, the Wirtz family controlled it outright, and they controlled the Chicago Blackhawks along with it. The stadium became, in every meaningful sense, a Wirtz family heirloom. And in the 60 years between Patty Harmon's death and the family's final decision, the Chicago Stadium became the most legendary indoor arena in America. 5 United States presidential nominating conventions were held inside it. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was nominated for his first term there in 1932 and for his fourth in 1944. Herbert Hoover, Wendell Willkie, and Thomas Dewey all stood at podiums on that floor. The first NFL playoff game in history was played there in December of 1932. Indoors, on dirt left over from a circus. It was also one of the great American concert halls. Elvis Presley played 2 nights there in June of 1972. The very last concert ever held in the building was Pearl Jam on March 10, 1994. And then there was Michael Jordan. The Bulls had moved into the stadium back in 1967, and for 2 decades, nobody much noticed. Jordan was drafted in 1984. Over the next decade, on that stadium floor, he won 3 NBA championships in a row, 1991, 1992, and 1993. If you were in the stadium on June 14, 1992, the night the Bulls came back from 15 down in the fourth quarter to beat the Portland Trail Blazers and clinch their 2nd straight title, you did not hear the final buzzer go off. You felt it through your shoes. The roar of 17,000 Chicagoans in that iron and concrete echo chamber was, according to engineers who measured it over the years, louder than any other indoor arena in professional sports. The noise had nowhere to go. The building had been finished before the science of acoustics caught up to the science of construction. In 1973, Bill Wirtz had installed the air horn from his personal yacht above the ice. After every Blackhawks goal, the horn fired. That tradition eventually spread across the league. The building had a nickname for all of it, the Madhouse on Madison. And then, on a perfectly ordinary day in 1988, Bill Wirtz took a business trip to suburban Detroit. The Detroit Pistons had just opened a new arena called the Palace of Auburn Hills, 21,000 seats. But that was not the part that caught Wirtz's attention. The palace had been built by a private developer named William Davidson, and Davidson had done something no NBA arena had done before. He had built 180 luxury suites into the design. Glass-walled, climate-controlled, private. Corporations leased them for tens of thousands of dollars a year per box. The palace generated suite revenue that no other arena in the country could match. Wirtz toured the building. Then he told a reporter the line that doomed the Chicago Stadium. It obsoletes every other arena. That was his word. Obsoletes. He saw the bottom line before he saw the sight lines. The Chicago Stadium had been designed in 1929 for the man with the cheapest ticket. There was nowhere to put luxury suites. The bowl was too steep, the concourses too narrow, and so Bill Wirtz, the man whose family had owned the building for half a century, who had grown up running through its corridors as a kid, decided in a suburban Detroit parking lot that his stadium had to die. He went home and called Jerry Reinsdorf, the man who had bought the Bulls in 1985. Wirtz proposed they build a new arena together across the street from the old one, with skyboxes built into the architecture. Reinsdorf agreed. The total cost was approximately $175 million, privately financed with no public money. They broke ground in 1992. The United Center opened on August 18, 1994. The old stadium had 1 season left in it. The final NBA game ever played at Chicago Stadium was Game 6 of the second round on May 20, 1994. Michael Jordan was not there. He was in retirement and playing minor league baseball in Birmingham. Without Jordan, the Bulls beat the New York Knicks 93-79 that night, in front of a roaring home crowd. 2 nights later, in New York, they lost Game 7 and their season ended. But the building's last basketball memory was a win. The final hockey game came earlier, on April 28, 1994. The Blackhawks lost 1-0 to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto's Mike Gartner scored the only goal of the night in the first period. It was the last goal ever scored on that ice. The final event of any kind in the building was on September 9, 1994. A charity basketball game was organized by the Reverend Jesse Jackson through his Push Excel program. Jordan came out of his baseball retirement for one night and scored 52 points. Al Melgard's Barton organ played for the last time. It was the proper goodbye the building never got from the playoffs. Demolition began on February 3, 1995. Bill Wirtz didn't want to attend. CNN had asked for an interview. And the only reason he showed up was the cameras. He stood on Madison Street and watched the wrecking ball put the first hole in the roof his family had owned for half a century. CNN televised the whole thing. Blackhawks and Bulls fans gathered on the sidewalks and cried as the building came down. The site is now a parking lot for the United Center, which stands across the street. There is a plaque set into the pavement. It reads, Chicago Stadium, 1929 to 1994. Remember the roar. 2 of the original friezes were saved from the wrecking ball and embedded in a wall at St. Ignatius College Prep on West Roosevelt Road. The 6-ton console of the Barton organ was bought by a member of the Maloof family and now sits in their home in Las Vegas. The center section of the Bulls parquet floor, the piece where Jordan once dunked from the free throw line in 1988, is in Michael Jordan's trophy room at his mansion in North Carolina. 2 friezes, an organ console, a piece of floor, a plaque in the pavement. That's what's left of the building Patty Harmon spent his fortune and the last 15 months of his life to build. Patty Harmon could not keep his stadium past 1930. He lost it to shareholders, then to a car crash. 65 years later, the man who grew up inside that building could not keep it either. He lost it to a parking lot in Auburn Hills. Remember the roar, the skyboxes will not.